Today we are going to learn about conflict story elements. The lesson objectives are to identify conflict in literature, understand the difference between external and internal conflict, and understand the different types of conflict. What is conflict? In a story, conflict is the struggle between opposing forces. Internal conflict. Internal conflict takes place inside the body or mind. Which one, the burger or the salad? One form of internal conflict is person versus self. The struggle is within the character, making a difficult decision. For example, a character struggling to overcome fear, addiction, emotional damage, or another personal issue. External conflict. External conflict takes place outside the body and mind. There are three types of external conflict: person versus person, person versus nature, person versus society. Person versus person. This is mostly seen in the form of two characters against each other, protagonist versus antagonist. But it does not have to be in the physical confrontation. It can be a battle between ideas. Person versus environment. Environment is defined as anything surrounding a person. This can include the weather, objects, activities, etc. Person versus society. The protagonist battles against the element of government or culture. Time to practice. What type of conflict is being illustrated in these pictures? Person versus self, person versus environment, or person versus society. It is person versus self. Is this picture person versus self, person versus environment, or person versus society? It is person versus environment. Is this picture person versus self, person versus person? Person versus environment, or person versus society? It is person versus society. Is this picture person versus self, person versus environment, or person versus society? It is person versus environment. Time to practice. What type of conflict is being illustrated in these passages of text? Shelley stared into the mirror, brushing her teeth. Every morning, she had the same conversation with her reflection. Today's the day, she thought. Today, I'm going to leave him. Today, I'm going to walk right up to him and tell him it's over. Is this person versus self, person versus environment, or person versus society? This is person versus self. I was just about to update my Facebook profile when my mother walked in. In her hand was my report card. This is not going to end well for me. How are you failing 3 classes? Say goodbye to your social life. It is nothing but studying for the rest of the year. I couldn't believe my ears. Mom, you are being totally unreasonable. Is this person versus self, person versus environment, or person versus society? It is person versus person. Tired of the pay inequality at her work, Joanna decided to take things into her own hands. She rallied the women in her office to stage a peaceful protest. They picketed outside the building for 6 days until they are afforded the opportunity to meet with the general managers. So, what type of conflict is this? It is person versus society. Richard leapt from his bed and ran to the door. The smell of smoke woke him, and when he heard the alarm in his hallway sound, he knew he was in trouble. He opened the door and flames filled the hall. He knew his only option was out the window. What type of conflict is this? Person versus environment.